June 11th, Tuesday. It's the Plant-Based Morning Show. We're brought to you by Love Compliment, or brought to you by Compliment, which is at lovecompliment.com. Plantapalooza's out of the way. We're done our big blowout thing. Now it's just back to the normal prices and normal amount of content. But we do have a good show today. Interesting, controversial news. Looks like the death blow to the plant-based meat industry if you take the headlines at face value, saying that these vegan meats are linked to a 15% increase in heart attack risk, which is terrible if true. So we'll get into that and dissect it a bit, see if that is true. Anyway, Doug, how you doing?
Matt, you know what? I'm doing pretty well. I am doing pretty well. I got in my run this morning, got in a post-run nap because kids didn't have to go to school, which is fantastic. And you'd be happy to hear this. I have been switching up my lifting routine to include some back exercises. Make sure I'm taking care of not just the chest, but the back as well.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be one of those guys who only goes in the gym and does chest.
No, I don't want to be one of those guys. I don't want to be one of those guys that only does upper body too, and is like shredded up top, and then just has like these puny little legs. But I'm not too worried about that because of my running. But you're muted, by the way, Matt.
Yeah, I'm having some problems. I don't know what just happened. My whole camera just seemed to have reset. Anyway, seems like we're working out. That's good. Glad to hear it. I was in Virginia Beach for the weekend for the soccer tournament, which was fun as always. The weather was nice. It was very hot, but not quite as hot as it's been in previous years. The kids had fun. That was all good. Very busy. The interesting thing related to health that came out of it for me is I slept really well, and I don't really sleep well in hotels. Typically, no one really usually does. But I got 2 90-point sleep scores, which is pretty rare for me on my Oura Ring. I don't usually get much above 80. And I think it's because I was walking around so much that it made it so that this back hip thing that I don't know
what's keep talking. I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, but you can't see me? Yeah, I'll try to fix this. Anyway, the kettlebell. Okay, I gotta pause for a second. Sorry, Doug. I can't keep talking. I'm trying to mess with all the pop-ups that are happening. You here? Camera off.
I'll just do some dancing until you get back.
All right. Camera back on. It appears not to be working. I'm gonna. Okay. Don't know what to do. I just have no picture. Should I just proceed as if I do?
You want to leave and come back in? See if that helps?
Yeah, I'll give that a try. You have to entertain the audience. You can say hi to the people who are checking in. Okay, I'm back.
While you're doing that, I will say hello to Britters. Welcome. Leslie Knight, Allie. It was 111 degrees here for Britters today. That is crazy. I don't know. Where do you live again? Phoenix or something? And then let's see. Taberlin P 99. Welcome. Small crew today. We have some good numbers if you're looking at the stats, but not a lot of people saying hello. So say hello. Let us know what you've been up to. Brandon Turner. Good morning, Brandon. You're back, Matt. Welcome back.
I'm back. I got to change my name. It says Doug Hay right now. All right. Yes, now I'm back. Anyway, long story short, I slept really well, and I think it was because I was walking around so much, because this hip back thing that I did with kettlebells a couple years ago, it just never has really gone away, despite, and it seems to get worse when I take a long rest period from fitness, which I've done a couple months now of just like not really any kind of regular exercise. It gets worse. So I think the walking stretches it out. It's a tightness issue. It's not like I don't know what it isn't, but it doesn't feel like a serious injury. It's just always just tightness. But anyway, I think all the walking really helped. So now I got another reason to do it. And didn't we talked the other day about all these other reasons to do that? It might have been the same thing, but I just need to start walking and running more. I got to do that. And I got all the reasons to do it now. So that was it for me. Ate some Mexican food twice. Thought of you a little bit as I did that. Did not try watermelon with pretzels. Told my family about that. Scoffed at it. Said, can't believe Doug's doing that.
Has anyone tried it yet?
What?
Has anyone tried it?
No. No one's gonna try that. We're not going to.
Oh, come on, Matt. You're
we had
depriving your
watermelon.
kids. Why would you deprive your kids of such wonderful culinary sensation? Pleasure.
No, it's a gateway thing to get into. Soon they'll be cooking the Tex-Mex food all the time and doing putting all the toppings on the pizzas and all that.
Uh-huh.
Not doing it.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, so you gotta start walking more. Just do it. Just walk. Just go for a walk.
I know. I always talk about that. I like walking. I just need to do it. No excuses.
Do you have an easy place? Like you can. I mean, you're where you live now. Your neighborhood is very walkable, right?
Yeah, I mean it's boring, but it would be fine to walk. So I could just put on a podcast and. Yep, need to do it.
I was talking to someone the other day, last week, who has just been really, really struggling with sleep, and they realized after they started digging into it more and starting really trying to evaluate what changed for them because they didn't sleep before, it was the fact that they started tracking their sleep. And
that made them stop sleeping well, or yes,
stop sleeping well. That having that data stressed them out. It was. I mean, it's kind of like your story, right? Your original O-ring love-hate relationship with O-ring. But I mean, it like turned really bad, where they were like having to go see a sleep coach and do all this kind of stuff because they were stressing out so much, and it all kind of came back to this spiral that happened when they realized they weren't getting as good a sleep as they thought they were.
Yeah, I believe that. And it's interesting because it could just be not the fact, like when I was stressed about it, I guess it was partly that, but it was also just the fact that there was data being tracked all the time. Knowing that if I wasn't sleeping, it was stressful because I did a bad score in the morning. But I think that's interesting that like the very realization that you're not sleeping as well as you think you are, because I think we've talked about this before, that people will sleep. I have a feeling the 8-hour figure that we all have in our heads of like, this is the ideal amount of sleep. That's just all based on self-reported stuff from people saying, they sleep really, they feel good, their health is good, whatever, when they self-report sleeping 8 hours. But I think when people sleep 8 hours, they don't actually sleep 8 hours, right? They're maybe in bed for that long, and that's what there is. But my Oura ring, I feel like when I'm actually think I'm asleep for 8 hours, it's more like 6.5 or 7 because there's tossing and turning and stuff. That's what actually gets reported. So it makes you think you're not sleeping as well as you should be, but maybe you actually are. Maybe it's fine. So I don't know. It is a nifty thing. I think I'm over that kind of stress period. Like now I just do it very casually, and this is useful.
It's still Oura ring, or what are you using?
Yeah, I still have the Oura ring, and I still use it, and it doesn't cause me stress like it used to. A lot of days I don't even check it, but when I'm interested, I do. So it's actually good in that way. Kind of got past over the hump.
Good.
All right. Anyway, Kate says YouTube's having issues today, so that's perhaps the reason. I don't know if that's the reason why my thing didn't work, but now it seems to be working. Good morning to everybody who's here. You, Doug, you had friends in town. Anything else fun over the weekend?
We had a very fun weekend, but not a ton of interest to report to the greater world. Lots of food, lots of music, and just kind of hanging out with friends. It's good. Had some cocktails. They're cocktail drinkers, and that was fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Like a nice cocktail. I had a margarita over the weekend at the Mexican place.
Oh.
With a friend in Virginia Beach. It's pretty good, but I expected to be, kind of buzzing and happy after it, and I didn't really feel anything. It was like a big margarita, so I was a little disappointed in that.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thought I had one more thing to ask about before we get into the show. Oh, did you eat any vegan meats over the weekend? Given that we're talking about the health hazards of vegan meats today.
I had seitan.
Okay.
Seitan chicken.
Made by you or out?
No. Made by, I think, like Good Life or something like that. One of those good.
Like at a restaurant or what? I mean, I'm saying, like, did you prepare?
Oh no, I cooked it. Bought it at the grocery store. Yeah.
You cooked that for your friends too?
No, we had that for dinner last night.
Oh, okay.
Pasta with a little seitan chicken in there.
There you go.
But no, I don't think I had any vegan meats at all over the weekend.
Look at that. You know what else I had over the weekend? I don't know if people care. Greek food. I really love Greek food, especially those grape leaves, the whatever they're called, stuffed grape leaves. I think they're dolma.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? I never used to like that as a kid. I thought it was gross. But I just kept seeing it. They have these stands along the boardwalk, and for some reason, several of them have this Greek food. So we got a hummus falafel thing once, and then I just kept wanting these grape leaves, and I wasn't going to buy the whole vegetarian platter because it was $20. So I ended up getting what I've never gotten before, a pita, but instead of the falafel being the pita, it's just stuffed with the stuffed grape leaves. So like a double stuffing going on there. That and hummus. It was actually really good, delicious pita. So I don't know. I like that Greek food. Never really make that at home too much. But it was good. Good treat.
We do Greek food. Katie loves Greek food.
Oh yeah.
And she loves those grape leaves. What are they called? What are the roll up things called?
I think it's dolma. I'm gonna look that up. Dolma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, dolmas. They're called dolmas. And what's inside? Rice? Yeah, it's rice.
Yum.
Anyway, not that interesting, but that's what I did. Okay, ready to jump into our weather report. We got some good stuff today, and then this really interesting news. I mean, it's some of the worst. It's true, worst data you will hear about fake meats. But anyway, there's a big problem with the way it is being interpreted. Anyway, here we go. First, some good news. Before we get to all that stuff, people with early stage Alzheimer's disease may be able to slow their cognitive decline through diet and exercise, according to a new study. This is important for me. It's from Alzheimer's Research and Therapy. The study was published Friday, and they show that people who had a daily mix of aerobic exercise and a mostly plant-based diet slowed cognitive decline. But the memory and thinking worsened for the members of the control group who didn't change their habits. So there you go. It wasn't just they're talking about changing their habits. It wasn't just like a survey data. It was I guess people do this for a while. I didn't look that deeply, but divide into groups, have some do it, organize, conceptualize this, and that's what they found. So I'm glad to hear this. It makes me want to get to that running and walking. Got to get this sustainable fitness. Plant-based diet is good, and I like that it's mostly plant-based diet instead of all the way. I think that helps people get there, make improvements, and that's good.
This is important to you because of family history?
I have I forget what it is, but that's
right, the gene or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. One of the variants or something. It's not terrible. It just puts me into the higher risk group of getting it fairly early. All right. There's that. They looked at only 51 people, so not a huge amount. The people who did it was a 20-week intervention. People who did it were shipped 21 plant-based meals and snacks each week. So that's pretty cool. I'd like to get that. I'd like to just opt into any study that's going to send me that stuff. And they took daily 30-minute walks with strength training movements 3 days per week. So, just basic good diet, basic good fitness. You don't have to do crazy stuff here. That's all it takes to reduce your Alzheimer's risk. And it didn't just reduce the risk. They also found that it lessened their beta amyloid measure in blood. I think that's what leads to those look like cobwebs in your brain when you look at the scans or whatever. And thought to be linked to Alzheimer's. All right, there's that one. Much lighter news. Dr. Pepper has surpassed Pepsi as the #2 carbonated soft drink in the U.S. I can't believe that. If I had just had to rank things and guess rough market shares, I would have put Pepsi at 45% or 40, and Coke at 50, and Dr. Pepper at 2, and then everything else around there. I mean, can you believe that, Doug? Holding Pepsi?
I mean, I don't know. It's surprising to me. It is.
I just think of Dr. Pepper as a very niche kind of flavor that not everyone likes. So that's, to compare it to, Coke, Pepsi, Apple, these are the products, and not even Apple. These are the products that are for everybody, right? You talk about marketing and niching down and all this, and they say you're not Coca-Cola, so you got to pick your audience. Coca-Cola is for everybody.
Right.
And so the Dr. Pepper could surpass Pepsi. Surpass
who drinks product? Pepsi though? Seriously. You never see somebody walking around drinking Pepsi.
I thought about exactly that. I when we were kids, it was just I thought there was one or the other. The new generation drank Pepsi. It was cool. Hip. But then I thought about that. Do you ever see people drinking Pepsi bottles? And I actually just did see someone at the beach drinking a Dr. Pepper. For some reason, I took note of that. And you always see people with Cokes, especially those Coke Zeros. But I guess Pepsi's just tanking. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. So what? I'm trying to find the top ones here. so you can guess. But I'm having a little trouble, so maybe not.
Okay.
The data is incorrect because it still lists Pepsi as number 2.
Okay. All right. That's okay. Moving on. Back to the vegan specific news. Heather Mills, who is famous in the UK. I still don't know what she is. She Paul McCartney's wife? Is that what it is? I think so. Or ex-wife? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
She had a company. It was called V-Bites. We heard that it entered administration, which is bankruptcy to me and you. That was a few months ago. I don't know what happened to it. She was the Woman of the Year at this year's Vegan Women's Summit. We've talked about that a few times, that event. And here's what happened. She and some others and a dozen climate activists began an impromptu protest inside a dining hall during an event in Germany, the Bonn Climate Conference, where she had announced she was going to be there. So she went to this thing. People were eating lunch in the area. A bunch of different UN officials queued for their lunch. It says delegates, and she and her dozen band of misfits got together and started chanting, "If you care about the climate, eat vegan for your lunch." And food system change now. Sign the plant-based treaty. So, yeah, I don't know
If
if
you
that
care about the environment, eat vegan now. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
If you care about the climate, eat vegan for your lunch.
Yeah, there you go. If you care about the climate, eat vegan for your lunch. It got a nice ring to it. I can see that. Like, get some drums behind it. You care about the environment, get vegan for your lunch.
With 12 people, I mean, that would have been quite the scene to have a smattering of people yelling this. Sounds like very impromptu chant put together. Spur of the moment, walking around the cafeteria.
I wonder if it worked. Do you think it worked for anybody?
Yeah, it probably made everyone hate vegans and probably say, well, we're not going to vote for this just because of that. It's like me and the Oatly stuff. If your advertising is bad, it makes people not like you. And that's what I think happened here.
But do you think that if someone said, I mean, this is you and types, like, I know that you're a little slightly different. But, if someone whispered in your ear, right, if you're looking at a bunch of food and someone whispered in your ear, like, that food's bad for the environment, that food's good for it. Wouldn't that influence you a little bit and like how in your decision?
No, I would think what I do doesn't matter one bit. One person, like a massive change, sure, but like I'm not gonna make any difference here. So that wouldn't impact me a bit. But what would impact me is people getting up and chanting during my lunch and messing it up. And then I'm gonna say I don't like those people. I just hate protesting. So that I don't know. I don't like the disruption of stuff like this. So this is not good PR in my book.
Okay.
I might have been excited to see Paul McCartney's wife. They'd be like, "Hey, look at that! That's a Beatles."
Yeah. What if they started chanting like for your sports team? Would that make you excited? A little impromptu sports chant?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Agree with it. But if it was any other team, I'd be like, "Come on, I'm trying to eat lunch." Yeah, I don't know. I think the glory days of protesting are over, in my opinion. I think it's out. I think it's on the way out.
I think that's a Matt take that I don't know if it's a correct take.
Yeah, I don't either. All right. Anyway, so there's that. More good, positive PR for vegans, I guess. I mean, actually, I don't know if this is positive or what. PETA has sued the Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport on Tuesday, saying that they violated the U.S. Constitution by rejecting an ad that depicted a moo cow carry-on that urged, I don't know what that means, but it was an ad saying, was she killed to make your carry-on? And it shows a kind of a bag that someone's carrying, a leather bag, but it shows a cow in it, or like, it's part of a cow. Cruelty doesn't fly, choose me. So it's a vegan ad, and they rejected it. PETA's argument here, I don't know what the rules are around this free speech and rejecting of ads and all that, but PETA says like this airport has a history of not liking animal stuff. They've advertised rodeos on their Facebook. In the airport itself, there's a mounted elk, deer, and moose head. So I mean, this is not vegan country by any means, for sure. Southwest Wyoming, and PETA's argument is they're just against, or sorry, like something that like this ad is against a lot of what the airport people stand for. So that's why they rejected it, rather than, whatever I guess the real reason is that they gave was probably that it is, it would be upsetting to people or whatever.
Yeah. Are airports privately owned? Most of them are, probably, right? Actually, I have no idea.
I don't know. They're always named after famous people, so I would somehow imagine they have funding behind them.
I guess not, right? I mean,
Maybe
there's
a
been
regional
big
airport,
investments in like local, like the actual airport, state investments and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
So a privately owned company can reject whatever ads they want, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying is.
Okay. So it must be that it's not, but a public one can't do that. They need to be fair to all the ads, I guess.
I mean, there has to be criteria for.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I don't like a lot of what PETA does. I don't like when it's loud and like the protesting, just kind of disruptive to other things. I think a lot of times it makes people not like vegans. This I'm okay with. I don't know. This seems valid to me if it's if it is a publicly owned thing.
Yeah. Here you go. All but one U.S. commercial airport are owned and operated by public entities, including local, regional, and state authorities. So there you go.
Okay. Now we know. All right, good. So there's PETA doing what they do. And then the last bit I got here, weather report item, has to do with this theater. I don't think we talked about this. There's an all-vegan theater that opened in the UK. I think they opened in March of this year. It's called the Garlange Theater. And the news isn't really news. It's just that they have a new musical play there about the meat industry, and it's called Mad Cow. Plant-Based News covered this. They're a UK-based publication, so it makes more sense that their audience would care about this. But it has a darkly comic satire. It's a vegan theater, and so like they have these shows and plays and stuff all the time, but they have a rule there that only plant-based food can be served at that theater, no matter who's putting on the show, no matter whose event is being hosted there. It's only plant-based stuff, and apparently that apparently upset people. Like they said there was calls for a boycott when they started this thing, which is, of course, it's calls for a boycott. Anyway, I just didn't know that they did like vegan plays like this, where it's plays that are kind of meant to be anti-meat industry. And at first I thought this was going to be like Monty Python style jokes, and I was like, that seems so nerdy and like not something I want to be part of. Just too much echo chamber stuff. But then I read more, and it sounds like it's kind of a real story. Universal themes, explores important questions, and I don't know. They try to make change, I guess, by an interesting story. So this is okay. I'm all right with this. Probably wouldn't go. Actually, no. If I had a vegan theater, of course I'd go to it. I don't know if I'd go see the anti-meat industry show. It just seems kind of echo chamber. I feel like it's gonna be like the vegan cruise, or like everybody there is like, oh yeah, no, we know better than everybody else. We're right. They're wrong. This food's so good. Their food's so bad. I don't like that vibe.
How is it any different than a vegan doc? I know you often don't watch them, so maybe it isn't any different.
Yeah, I would watch that in the privacy of my own home. I wouldn't go out to a big showing of the vegan documentary and then like converse with everybody and be like, look, we're so right, they're so wrong.
So Game Changers 2, you're invited to the grand opening, to the whatever.
I might go to that. I don't usually get invited to the grand opening, so that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about going paying my own hard-earned money to go see a film, see a premiere.
I watched Game Changers in the theater, and it was great. And the person I went vegan, and has remained vegan ever since.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Look at that. Change happened. Speaking of this, I forgot all about this. We had a kid. There was a kid on my son's soccer team in Virginia Beach, and he came up to our room for a little while. They were like, it was after the games or whatever, and we were hanging out. And he was like, I saw a documentary that you were in. And I was like,
really?
What was that? It was that Tara Umara thing called Goshen, I think it was, Goshen. Do you remember that?
No,
they made
I don't
it in
remember
like
this at all.
2014. They came to our house. They filmed us eating dinner or something, and like I did some interviews with it. And it was weird because it was not a vegan show. It was about the Tara Umara people. It's about ultra running, and I mean, I guess there was some talk of diet in the film, and that these people might eat a relatively unprocessed diet, but certainly not a vegan one. Yeah, and it was like, I saw you in it. I thought that documentary. I thought nobody ever would tell me they saw me in that documentary because it just came and went in a matter of a couple of weeks. But he did. I was
That's funny.
proud of myself.
The Tarahumara runners were in Nashville last week. Some of them were.
Oh yeah. What they do?
They ran like a local 10K, and they were raising money for their tribe, for their community. So they're on like a speaker series. And like running a bunch of races, and then like doing some speeches and presentations and stuff. As a fundraiser for their community.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did that. I never actually thought about them taking advantage of all the celebrity that they earned from the books, but good. I'm glad. That's a fantastic idea.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I mean, so they have a big tour that they go around and do.
Yeah, I guess so. I unfortunately didn't get to make it, but I mean, yeah, they're like headed up to, I don't know, they're headed up to Raleigh or something next, and just kind of like doing a circuit.
That's funny. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
All right. Brandon Turner wants to open his own plant-based venue at one point. Not sure where I would do well. He might be a Charlotte guy who told me about the donut place. I'm not sure.
What kind of venue? A theater?
Yeah, I'd like to know what kind of venue as well. Make it like a regular movie theater, and I'd go there all the time. Play normal movies, but cheaper, discount. No, like brand new, just make them cheaper. And then all vegan food. Ideally free, beer, and I'm there.
Yeah, perfect.
You ever go to those dine-in movies, Doug? Whatever they're called? Cinema Draft House?
Oh.
Places?
Like Asheville Brewing Company?
Like Asheville Brewing would be, yeah.
Yeah. We love going there.
Yeah. But you told me you never went there. And I told you you need to go there a lot more.
Well, I hadn't gone there until, I don't know, a couple of years ago, maybe. But now we go a couple times a year at least.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoy that. Yeah, I've never been to like a mainstream chain one where because I assume you wouldn't get any vegan food. But there's a place called the Carolina in South Asheville that I went once, and I think what we got was something. We found something to eat there. Might have been a veggie burger.
Yeah, I've been to the Carolina, but that's a little different though. It's more like a movie theater.
Yeah, but you can get beer and food.
Yeah. Right. Although I think you can get beer everywhere now.
Like
AMC. And we went to a movie the other day. We went to see. Oh man, I don't even remember what we went to see. But what did we see? It was just an AMC, by the mall, and they had nuggets.
I mean, if you see, is that what it was?
If that's what it was. Yep. They had the Impossible Nuggets.
That
you could get, and then they serve beer too. But we didn't get it. We just got popcorn. But I was surprised. They had like a whole vegan platter, nuggets and something else, some sort of side.
That's pretty cool. I would have been tempted to get Impossible Nuggets if I saw that at a movie theater.
Yeah.
What do you think of If? I thought it was a little iffy. No, I really did. I was kind of.
I thought it was fine. I thought it wasn't like the best movie in the world, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was okay. It slowed down.
It got us talking about, Eliza, especially during COVID, was like peak imaginary friend. She had a couple friends that she would play with all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so we got to talking about that and sharing stories around that. She loved it. Yeah, it's good.
Well, that's cool. I've never known anybody who had an imaginary friend. Because Elliot was asking about that after the movie, and I was like, I think a lot of people do that, have been, but I just never knew someone who did. There you go. Eliza did because of COVID.
Eliza did. That's right. When she couldn't hang out with anybody else, she hung out with these imaginary friends.
Good. Britters hasn't been in the movie since 2019. Yeah, I'm not too far off from that. I've only run 2 or 3 times since then, probably.
Yeah, we're getting back into it because the kids. I don't know. They love it. It's just it's an experience.
Yeah, right. It is. All right, let's get to the story of the day. Maybe the stories of the day. There's a couple of them. But this is the big one. This was the headline stealer today. Although not as much as I expected. Maybe tomorrow will be the day that this is everywhere, because I think most of these stories were only from 12 hours ago. But you always get a gauge on how big something is. At least I do when I do the show research, because some things are just all over the whole first page of Google results. This one, 3 or 4 listings, but not that much. So we'll see about tomorrow. But the headline, this is from Daily Mail, who's typically not a pro-vegan site by any means. It says vegan fake meats are linked to increase in heart deaths. Study suggests. Experts say plant-based diets can boost health, but not if they are ultra-processed. So it was good just to see that in there in the little sub-headline part because, or sorry, even still in the main headline. Typically, they don't acknowledge that a plant-based diet can boost health if it's not ultra-processed. So that was kind of good. Other headlines highlighted the 15% risk. They were a little scary, talking about that this particular study found that these foods, and that's kind of vague, but of course they mentioned the plant-based meats and cakes, are linked to a 15% higher risk of suffering heart attacks and strokes. And that, of course, is the attention-grabbing stat because, heart attacks and strokes, very common causes of death for people. So a 15% increase in something that's already pretty common, that's a pretty substantial increase. So not good news if true. Like I said, this is from the UK Biobank study where they have a ton of data that they look at, and they compare this self-reported kind of observational data about diet and fitness things, and they compare that to hospital records and things like that. And in this case, they were examining the impact of plant-based ultra-processed food specifically on health. They looked at 118,000 Brits aged 40 to 69 years old, and they had their diets assessed over at least 2 days. So they were monitored for 2 days, I guess, and they either reported or they, was observed what they ate in that period. And what they found was what they said, that the plant-based ultra-processed food category had these scary increases in risk factors. Let me find the specific couple of sentences about this because they do have a little bit more clarity here. Here it is. People who ate a lot of plant-based ultra-processed foods had a 7% greater risk of suffering conditions like blocked heart vessels and a 15% heightened risk of dying when compared to vegetarians whose diets had less. So that's interesting right away. They're not talking about compared to a general population. They're talking about compared to the vegetarians who didn't eat very much ultra-processed foods. Upping intake of non-processed vegetarian foods, meaning the good stuff, such as fresh fruit and vegetables, by 10% was linked to an 8% lower risk of getting heart disease. And then finally, deaths from heart disease fell by a fifth in vegetarians who consumed at least or the least UPFs, and by 13% in cardiovascular disease overall. Caused by a buildup of fatty deposits inside the arteries. So, it's actually not very surprising here that the people who ate the most processed foods compared to vegetarians who ate more plants, fruits, and vegetables, get a higher risk of heart disease. So, I don't know, Doug, first thoughts from you about this before we dive a little deeper.
Yeah, like you said, not super surprising that ultra-processed foods are leading to a higher risk of heart disease. I did work through the study as best as I could in the 10 minutes before I got on the show, and I had a little bit of trouble. So it's basically comparing, from what I could see, it was comparing vegetarian diets, high plant diets with low ultra-processed foods versus plant diets with high ultra-processed foods.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I think's missing there, though, is the context of the standard American diet, right? And both of them compare to the standard American diet. So that's point number one. And maybe there's a little bit of information in there, and I'd love to hear your take on that. But the other thing that I thought was interesting was, the Daily Mail article is all about veggie burgers and plant meats and things like that. But for what I can tell, the study is not about that at all. It's just about ultra-processed plant foods, which could be French fries, could be, donuts, could be anything, plant meat or not, just any sort of ultra-processed plant food, which tells a very different story than vegan meats are terrible.
Right.
French fries are okay, right? Because everybody loves French fries. It's easy to say like vegan meats are terrible, you shouldn't eat vegan meats, and have that be the headline, right? Which is what it is for an omnivore to hear, but not say actually it's French fries and tater tots and everything else that you love are also equally bad, right?
Yes, right. So that's exactly the big problem with this, and I don't mean this is a problem with the study. The point, like the study, the way it was designed, what this study was designed to do was tell the difference between ultra processed plant foods and non ultra processed plant foods and that diet, right? And it does a good job, at least when it comes to heart disease, of showing that there's a lot of variation within a plant-based diet, as based on the foods that you eat. They showed the thing is, it's just really not about meat alternatives, and that's of course what the media take as the headline to run with. In the study, they show the breakdown of the dietary contribution, the percentage of total energy intake of the different foods from all these different categories in the study groups, and the plant meats that they drew this conclusion from, 0.2% of all the calories. It's like the lowest item on the entire list as far as amount of contribution to the diet. Fruit 8.9%, beer and wine 6%, cereals 4%. In terms of the junk food, the industrialized packaged breads 9.9, pastries, buns, and cakes 6.9. So this is percentage of calories in someone's diet. Biscuits 3.9, margarine and spreads 3.3. So all the way down, less than like a 20th of the amount of margarine, which is pretty far down the list itself, is meat alternatives, right? It's almost a non-factor in this study. What impact those things in particular have here. So it's just unfortunately, the media is going to take those and make it like an anti-meat alternatives thing. And I'm not saying unfortunately because I want to defend the meat alternatives. I'm just saying it's just not the truth. It's just not what the study's about.
Right.
This doesn't say that they're good, but other things have said they're about the same as regular meat. It's kind of you trade off one type of disease or badness for another type when you switch from one to the other. They're not necessarily good things, but this just doesn't show that they're bad. They're just not big enough a part of the.
And what it's showing is that a lot of the food that everyone eats, regardless of diet, or I shouldn't say everybody, but whether you're a vegetarian, vegan, or omnivore, a lot of people are eating processed breads, processed baked goods, fried foods, all those types of plant foods that everyone's eating. And what this is saying is that if you swap that for a whole food, for fruit, for nuts, seeds, something like that, then it's probably going to be a lot healthier.
Yes, and it also shows us that just because these things might be plant-based, because again, it was only looking at plant-based ultra-processed foods when they draw this conclusion that they did. Just because your pastries, buns, cakes, biscuits, margarine, whatever, are 100% plant-based does not mean that they are now, like fruits and vegetables in terms of their health. They're not. Now, like you said, I don't know why we don't know how they compare to the non-plant-based versions. That would be really interesting to know how the plant-based foods compare to the plant-based ones. So then when I thought about that, I was like, well, why don't they just look at the study? They have all this data. They have all the different foods that everybody's eaten, the number of hospital visits. They have all this data on how much meat that people ate and how much animal products and how much animal processed foods they ate. Why didn't they just look at all the data and say, here are the broad patterns we can draw and conclusions we can draw, and we can decide that these things are bad and these are good. And I think the reason they don't is because I think with science, and I know with science, you're supposed to make a hypothesis and then go search in the data to try to, prove that hypothesis or demonstrate the hypothesis being true or disprove it. You're not supposed to go look at all the data and then from that say, okay, now we have some results and hypotheses. That's data mining, where if you look at enough data, you can find patterns when it's just purely the result of randomness. If they also had, and I'm sure there's much more data in here about red or hair color, the town that the people are in, and if you looked at all that stuff, you might be able to find that a red-haired person from a specific town, those people all, if you ate fish, you ended up getting this thing, right? So you can do really bad science if you're just data mining, but if you first come at it with a hypothesis, we think this is the case, and then you look at your data and you figure out whether that's true or not. That's the good science. So I guess they can't just take this whole biobank and just figure out patterns from it. They need to start with the hypothesis, and maybe that's why we don't have all the information that we kind of wish.
But I do think that that's the next step, right? I mean, I think it's a good question, right? Is all plant-based food created equal for your health, equal benefit to your health, or is ultra processed worse for you than non-ultra processed? Right? I think that's a good thing for us to look at and explore. But then the next logical question is, all right, now how does this compare to the same foods but with animal products?
Yeah, right. That'd be great to know. I don't think it'll be any better. I mean, I don't think anyone really would have a reason for thinking that this plant-based ultra processed stuff is any better than the non-plant-based stuff. It's all junk food. So I don't know, but there was one more thing I wanted to add about it, and I forget what it was. Doesn't matter. Yeah, that's it. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. That's kind of all there is about this, but it's a big one. Oh, I know what it was. It was that we've seen this, like, so this study kind of doesn't account for what we've seen recently. Was like there's been criticism of these things for saying, yes, we know ultra processed foods are bad in general. We know that you can count plant-based meats as ultra processed foods, but we think they shouldn't be just lumped in with all the other processed foods because they are very different from those foods, and that they're very high in protein. They're not made with extra sugar, right? They don't have a lot of the hallmarks of ultra processed food. And when you look at what happens with just fake meats, it turns out they seem to be better than ultra processed foods, even though they're kind of the poster child for ultra processed food when it comes to ammunition on the other side. So the study sort of just doesn't help with that at all, right? It just puts them in with the ultra processed foods, and again says people who eat a bunch of the ultra processed food is bad, and then the media says people who eat the plant-based meats, get more heart disease. So
thinking about a veggie burger, think again.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need. We need those kind of those headlines. That's helpful stuff. I should look for those Dr. Prager's veggie burgers. We said we were going to try to get after they won what was it? Whose awards was that? Oh, People Magazine.
Oh yeah.
I looked in the store yesterday. I couldn't even find the veggie burger section in my food line, so I eventually just left. It's not a very vegan friendly store.
Brandon Turner, I'm currently eating dairy Cajun chicken and tortilla chips. All right. In Doug's corner with that. That sounds like a great lunch. I would gobble that up right now.
Well, yeah, our friend Adam from our team, he just loves that daring stuff. He does. He glazes it, as they say, as my son says, glazing something. He's talking too nice about it.
Glazes?
Yeah, not a fan of dairy. Just I don't think it's that good.
What does that mean? Like when you put glaze over something, it looks too good, too shiny?
I honestly don't know. I've thought about it a little bit, and then I intentionally stopped because it went to a bad place. So
I'm surprised you didn't share the wicked foods news.
Yeah, I saw that on probably Thursday, and I just didn't know if we wanted to get into that yet. But there's no reason not to. I talked to Matt about it, and he was, I just didn't know for sure that all our team knew that he was doing the CEO duties. Anyway, the news is Wicked Kitchen, who makes a bunch of products, a bunch of different frozen products specifically. They did the collaboration in, I think it was the Seattle Kraken Arena thing, where they had an Impossible Foods kitchen thing. I don't know. Somehow they were part of that. Anyway, they've been acquired by the Ahimsa Group, and the Ahimsa Group is one that our CEO of our company, Compliment, Matt Tolman, is the group CEO of that. He's doing that role. I don't know if it's a temporary basis or permanent basis, but he's doing that for now. He was quoted in the article talking about this acquisition, and yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's consolidation, which we need, the industry needs. That's probably eventually what is the result of this big shakeout. Is there's a few brands that have a lot of properties instead of a ton of brands with a ton of properties. So yeah, you're right. I didn't get into that, but I don't know. You have more to comment on it, Doug?
No, nothing more. But I thought it was interesting.
Yes, interesting indeed. All right. Well, we did have a positive news piece in the Washington Post. We're not going to get into it today. I wish Mr. Jeffrey was here so we could make fun of how I say we're not going to get into stuff, and then we do. But we're really not. But it's a very positive plant-based cheese piece. So we'll probably get into that tomorrow unless something else comes along. But made me excited about it, for sure.
I'm glad we're not, because I forgot to read it. I got too focused on the study.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why we're not fitting in it. The study was enough to talk about. But read it for tomorrow, because we will get into it. And like I said, it's positive, it's optimistic, and it makes me excited about my prediction that this year is going to be the year we find taste parity with the plant-based cheeses, and we say no more need for dairy cows. We can just have this, and everyone will be happy. Well, maybe not everybody, but I would be.
If you care about the environment, eat vegan cheese. Care about the environment, eat vegan cheese. Like that?
I think that they chose vegan instead of plant-based in there. I think the other chant they were doing had the word plant-based in it.
Oh yeah, it's the plant-based treaty.
Yeah, that's right, plant-based treaty. And I guess that plant-based treaty matters. We always talk about the latest city to join it, and I kind of think, just what is it? Does it really mean anything when someone joins it? But I guess it does. If that's what they were pushing for, with their limited amount of time in the spotlight. Speaking of which, Doug, Black Mountain plant-based treaty, have you signed it yet?
No, we have not signed it yet.
What's holding that back?
Well, there aren't that many vegans in Black Mountain, for one.
I think leadership is to blame. Town council hasn't properly presented it.
There you go. Okay. Well, maybe if I decide to run again, I got to decide the next couple of weeks. Maybe this will be my my rally call.
You better, because I think it's time for a change. If you can't get that done.
No, probably
not. All right. Race Lover says we already have that. Plenty of good vegan cheeses. Now that is a hot take and one that I largely disagree with. There are a few good vegan cheeses, but they're not nearly as good as what this article talks about, which is like top shelf plant-based or not plant-based pizza restaurant who their specialty is buffalo mozzarella for their Neapolitan style pizzas. And the woman there saying this cheese that she's had is indistinguishable from that and good enough for their restaurant. We don't have anything like that yet, unfortunately. I know there's the Miyoko's pourable and all that, but it's just not the same. So
have you ever made the pour over? The pourable?
I've made Miyoko's mozzarella cheese before from her book. It's not pourable though. They come out in balls, just like the mozzarella you would buy comes in. Can you make your own pourable? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I saw a recipe the other day on YouTube for making it. And it looked great. I was like, maybe I should try that.
Yeah, I wonder what you do to make it pourable instead of. The other stuff you have to pour in agar or something that solidifies, that's whatever, gelatinizes it or something, so that you get the cheese balls, and it's pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. All right, we'll talk more about cheese tomorrow. But Race Lover saying, why do you need more than a few good ones? Also, homemade potato cheese. Yeah, you don't need more than a few. Unless you want to appeal to the cheese connoisseur types who do want a large variety. But you need a good sprinkled cheese that you can put on, or whatever, shredded cheese you can put on pizzas and things. And we don't have that yet. There's just not one where I'm saying that's like as good as pizza used to be. It's just not. But he does say homemade potato cheese is the bomb and can be tweaked to taste. So there you go. Never heard of potato cheese. Anyway, we will talk about cheese tomorrow, assuming nothing else comes and usurps that article as the main one. Anything else today, Doug?
No.
Hey, one more cheese. Shout out to me. Kelly K says I've been using Matt's recipe using cashews and nutritional yeast, and it's really tasty. I wish I could take credit for that recipe. I could take credit for spreading it around, but I think I first got a version of that from Minimalist Baker and a million other sites that have the same 4 ingredients in their sprinkled cheese. But yeah, I had it last night on some pizza. All right. We'll leave it there.
All right.
Anything else, Doug?
Nope. Not for me.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.